Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Excel lesson on relative and fixed cell references. A little bit about myself. My name is Kate Cunningham, and I have 17 years experience teaching mathematics in both the secondary and college school settings. I've utilized Excel extensively, both professionally and personally, and I'm excited to share my tips, tools, and tricks that I've learned over the years to help you harness the power of Excel to make you more efficient, effective, and productive. We're going to begin today by doing an icebreaker together. So give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay. So if you recall from what we were doing prior to the start of this session, I taught you guys how to use annotation tools. So if you could go ahead and place a stamp on each of these sliding scale bars to answer the question, would you consider yourself a life of the party or more of a wallflower? And also, how comfortable do you feel using Excel's built-in functions? Go ahead and do so, please. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so it looks like Eric considers himself more of a party animal. That's really awesome. I can see that you do feel less than comfortable with Excel's built-in functions. Eric, would you care to share a little bit about why you feel that way and what you hope to get out of today's session?
Hi, class. This is Eric. So I've used Excel uh, in several applications, but I'm very limited on how to take this data uh, and use it the way I want to use it at work without getting a bunch of errors in reference cells.
Okay, that's precisely what we're going to focus on today is dealing with fixed and relative cell references. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so just to start, whenever you copy a formula from one cell to a neighboring cell, if you're using relative cell references, Excel will automatically update the reference based on the direction you copy cells to. So if you are copying a formula from a cell either to the left or right of that cell, it's going to update the column references to change the column so that's referring to the correct cells. And if you copy it up or down, it's going to change the row references. So we're going to begin with an example here. We've got various different quantities of different shirts, pants, shoes, and jackets sold through 6 months, starting with January, going through June. We're going to populate the bottom row here with the total of each type of item sold. So first we're going to type in equals the sum of, and Excel, you'll notice, is giving me a hint as to what it's looking for the arguments, looking for in terms of arguments for this sum function. So it wants me to tell it what numbers I would like it to sum. So I'm going to use this white crosshairs, that's the selector tool, and click and drag the cells that I would like it to sum. And you'll notice that it's populated the formula bar with cells B3 colon B8. So it's going to sum starting with cell B3 going to cell B8. I'm then just going to close that with a parentheses and press enter, and it's going to calculate that for me. So we can see that there are 318 total shirts. And if you take a quick peek at the numbers that are there, that looks accurate. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my autofill tool. You'll notice that if you hover over the bottom right corner that it changes to black crosshairs. So if I click and drag that to the right, it's going to update column references so that it is now adding, in this case, for the pants column, column C3 through C8. So those cells which are in the correct column are now being updated. So you can see that it's doing that for each of these. If I do the same thing with the month and find a month total, this time I'm going to use the same function, equals the sum of. I'm going to select across a row. So it's going to sum from cell B3 to E3. So from this all along row 3 here, if I close the parentheses and then press enter, I get 133, which looks about right. If I then use my autofill tool, and this time I'm going to double click and it will fill down. So if you instead double click that right corner, it's going to autofill down. It only works downward. It doesn't work any other directions, but you can see that as you click through these cells, it did update the rows to accurately reflect the row that it's in. So these are called relative cell references. That's wonderful if we want it to automatically update for us, but sometimes we don't want it to change columns or change rows as we copy the formula across. So if that's the case, then what we're going to be needing to use is a fixed cell reference. So Excel uses the $ in front of a row or a column to fix that component of a cell reference. So if you look at my table here, if these are all different versions of cell A4. So if I have no $, it's a relative reference. Any direction I copy a formula containing A4, it's going to update to accurately reflect columns or rows like we saw previously. If I instead place a $ in front of the A, that's going to fix the column, but leave the row relative. So if I copy it left or right to different columns, it's not going to change the column reference here. It's only going to change rows if I copy up or down. Similar thing here, if I put a $ in front of the 4, it's going to make the row relative, but keep the it's going to fix the row, but keep the column relative because the $ in front of the row. And if instead I have a $ in front of both the A and the 4, it's going to fix the column and the row. So basically this is a completely fixed cell. If I copy it to other rows or columns, it's not going to change the cell that it's referring to. So the trick here I have for you, the tip is that if you're typing a formula and you need to change from relative to fixed types of cell references, you're going to use the F4 key to make that quick. Okay, so we're going to take a look at another example here. So what we have here is 3 different types of storage units with different numbers of each type of storage unit and different monthly rents based off the size. So we're going to consider new rent prices after 4 different dollar increases occur. So we're sort of considering what's going to happen if I increase rent by a couple dollars. So first, I'm going to find what the new monthly rent price is for a small unit. So I'm going to use my cells and I'm going to say equals $100. And I'm just going to use the plus key and I'm going to add the $5 to it. Press enter. If I go ahead and I copy this formula down, you can see that something funny has happened because here I should be adding $5 to $140 to get $145, but it's actually giving me $245. Questions so far? Okay, so something's not right. So if I click on this cell, I can see that it's referencing cells C4 in blue and D3, but I didn't want it to add D3. What number did I want to add here?
You wanted C4 with D2.
Right, so I need this D to not change when I copy. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this cell and I don't, with D2 here, when I copy down, I want the row to stay row 2. So to make that happen, I'm going to press F4 and start cycling through those cell references. Do you see how it's changing where the $signs appear as I press
I
F4?
do see it. I do see it. Okay.
So I'm going to fix the row, which is row 2. So I want the $sign to only be in front of the 2. So I'm going to use that one right there. Press enter. And now when I copy it down, you can see that now the prices look correct. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to try copying the formula to the right. And as I copy it to the right, remember, this is when columns sometimes change. So right now I can see that here it should be 100 plus $10, but it's not.
Correct.
So what is it referencing? Well, I'm going to click up here to see what it's referencing. It's using cell D3 and E2. So it didn't continue to use cell C3. So what's happening is it's changing the column. So I need to make the column fixed.
Correct.
So go back to this formula and C3 needs to have a fixed column. So I'm once going to use F4 to fix the column.
Right there.
Right there. Yep. Copy it down again and then copy it right. Now these prices look correct. Okay. So now I'm going to highlight these cells and copy it all the way down to completely fill out the array. Take a quick peek at what we've got here. Those numbers look good. Questions so far?
No, but that was great.
Okay, awesome. Glad you're following along. Okay, so in our last row here, we're going to be figuring out what the monthly revenue is based off of the total number of units and the monthly rent. But before we do that, I'm going to give you guys a moment to practice in breakout rooms. I'm going to send you away and I'm going to have you guys practice filling out this chart using fixed and relative cell references. So I'll send you on your way, and I'll come visit you in just a moment to check in on you. Okay, see you in a bit.
Okay, so use fixed cell references right from V3.